Hello, this is Anne Murray Allen, and I'm here with Purpose by Design to share some information, what I know about building authentic connection. I'm a consultant. I work with individuals, teams, and organizations to build effective relationships where extraordinary work can get done. My interest in that started when I was a small child, and I realized I was one of the most shy people I knew. I didn't interact easily. I was one of 8 siblings, but I was tended to be off in the background on the side, but I was observing everything. And what I eventually learned was, even though I was shy, I was always excited when people, kids, whomever came together and really created something that was high energy. And eventually, as I worked in organizations, I realized that's the magic of performance when organizations are really humming. So I built a career of that. It guided me through my education. I've worked at big companies. I've been a consultant like I am now. And I'm here to share what I know about how do you build that authentic connection. To do that, I'm going to have to share a few key principles with you. But first, when I say authentic connection, I do not mean us announcing our strong opinion on something and then waiting for someone to counter that with their strong opinion. We have way too much of that in the workplace and in the world at large. I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about a quality of listening that has people want to lean in, that captures their heart, captures their spirit, and has them want to join you in something that really matters to you. So first, a few key principles. All human beings, I don't care where you live, where you come from, what country, what culture, what gender, what age, we all have things we're for, things we're out to make happen, that we call that purposes. We have concerns or things we're against or worried about. We don't want those things to happen. And we have circumstances, which are very personal usually. It's facts about our situation that we're living inside of. For some people, it could be, I'm on a fixed budget. For other people, it's I've got responsibilities at home. We never really know what it is, but all people have those things. The trick with this, though, is even though we all have things we're for and against and circumstances we live in, we often don't have them clear in our mind. We don't share them up front with another. So it's the job of the person who wants to make an authentic connection to actually help bring that to the surface in your dialogue with the other person. So I'm going to ask you to think about clarifying your own purposes, concerns, and circumstances, what you're for, what you might be worried or concerned about, and what facts you live inside of. You could pause this video and jot them down. It's a good practice before you reach out to others to make that connection. Okay, next principle. If I think you understand what really matters to me, I'll be much more likely to connect and to want to collaborate with you. On the other hand, if you don't show an understanding, if you act like you don't care about me or you don't have the time to listen or draw me out or help me say what I believe, then there'll be resistance. And at best, I'll be lukewarm in my cooperation. I might only be compliant. And while you can still get things done, you don't get anything extraordinary done. Let me tell you a story once. This is an example of in the workplace. I was a production manager. I worked for Hewlett-Packard. I had a team of production workers that were round the clock. I had a team of technicians which supported the high-tech equipment. And I cared about all the people in my organization. I actually was in love with them all because I knew them as individuals and what they were capable of and their dreams and aspirations. One day, I met with a late shift production team, and I had come with a proposal. I said, hey, I've talked to the tech team. We've had some quality issues. They've got ideas on what we should do about that. I think they sound great. I've tested it with a few other people. I'd like us to start this in the next few days. And an individual who I knew to be very smart, I cared about, said, no, That's not going to work, Anne. I'm like, what do you mean it won't work? And he proceeded to say some things that sounded to me like complaining and nitpicking. And I found myself kind of pushing this idea. Well, no, actually, I think it will work. And here's why. And I really believed in my explanation of why it would work. And he kept resisting. Suddenly it dawned on me, you know, he's trying to make a contribution. I should get interested in that. So I made the trip from this side of the column to the other column over here. And I became very curious. Okay, John, what is it? What has you believe this won't work when other people believe it will? And he was able to come up with some specific times and incidences. And in that surfaced some things he was for. He was for the engagement of the production team. He was worried that this was being thrown over the wall to them. He had examples of where he had felt that that had occurred before. And I continued to inquire, and something magical happens then. He softened. He decided to really to get behind the goal here. And he had other ideas. And we built out something that was even bigger and better than what I had come to the team with. And I was fascinated by how it engaged and unleashed that energy. So step 2, be curious. Curiosity will always be your guide. The minute you feel super certain, you're shutting down possibilities. People know you're curious. They translate that into you care about me. And then reveal your point of view. I did it the other way. I tried to push my point of view, and I could have forced compliance. But again, nothing extraordinary would have occurred had I taken that approach. So now let's talk about, even if you're building authentic connections at work, whether it's the first job you've ever had or you have aspirations to grow with a certain business you're working with, what can go wrong? So when connection breaks down, again, it's helpful to remember we're human beings and we lead with our emotions. As a matter of fact, we often feel something and then rationalize it with our cortex later. So we're triggered at times, and that's based on our own past experience. When we had childhood, maybe we had friendships that didn't go well. Maybe we felt bullied. Maybe our parents treated us in a certain way, or our siblings, and that makes us sensitive. So when we perceive we are treated in certain ways by those we care about that is threatening, we're going to respond with a reaction. And we call that actually a biological reaction or a bioreaction. One of the ways you could respond is you move into fight mode. Hey, I don't like what you just said, and I'm willing to either argue with you or fight you on some level about that. Another bioreaction is flee. I'm leaving the room. I'm out of this conversation. I don't like the way it's going. We could freeze. That may occur. I'm with a team and I'm asked a question, and I feel like I should know that question, the answer to that question, and I don't. So I find myself frozen, thinking or not thinking about what am I going to do next. And then finally, there's those of us who are more of appeasers. If we say something to the boss that we thought would be welcomed and it's not, and it's criticized, suddenly we'll move into often into appease mode, saying, well, it'll be okay. I've got a different plan. I was just testing that. Don't worry about it. So fight, flee, freeze, or appease. You probably know you have one of those reactions more than another reaction. You have a favored one. It's important to understand your own bioreaction. So it occurs, bioreactions occur when we get triggered, okay? We can be triggered by words or actions. Some of these don't trigger me, like being told I'm wrong. Well, I'm used to that. And I just accept that that's somebody's personal opinion. I can be vigorously argued with. I'm not uncomfortable with that. But I can tell you on this list, there's 2 things that really affect me. One is being ignored, And that goes back to my childhood as a teenager when my father and I were debating something. He was a lawyer, and I was making my case. I was 17, and he suddenly didn't like the way the conversation was going. And he said, "Why am I even listening to you, Anne? You're only 17." And he marched out of the room. And I could just feel it. I felt totally dismissed and discounted. And so I had a strong bioreaction, and it felt like I was hurt, but that I wanted to fight. I also know from some early work experiences that I've been in workplaces where people were yelling. And I don't respond well to being yelled at. And it makes me want to yell back. So I clearly am biased toward kind of a fight reaction, but I've experienced shutting down and appeasing as well. It's just that I'm biased more towards fight. So what causes your bioreactions? Is it any of these things? If it's something else, ask yourself that question. It's important to know where your triggers are. So now let's talk about how you recover once you have a reaction, because let's face it, if you're at work and work is important to you, you don't want to have things go sideways and then feel like you can't recover. Relationships usually are important at work. That's how we get things done, through collaborating with others. So how can you recover? Well, realize that in our brain, we have a part of it, the hindbrain, it's called the amygdala. And when there's a trigger set off, we react because the amygdala is the part of our brain that's always looking for threat. It perceives a threat. It doesn't matter whether it's a tiger about to attack you or you suddenly feel embarrassed in front of your peers. You feel it physically the same way. The problem is when you're reacting in your amygdala, your cerebral cortex, that thing in the front of your brain, is shut down. So what do we have to do? We have to come back, bring that cortex back online so we can think clearly, we can discern, and we can problem solve. So the first thing to do, I can guarantee you, if you're having a reaction, you're not breathing, and you're not breathing very well. If you are breathing, take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and then go to your body and sense, okay, where am I holding this reaction? For me, my face will get flushed. I can feel it. I'm getting hot. Or my shoulders go up. I tense. Send that breath to wherever it is in your body where you're feeling that. Release it. And then finally, reflect. Ask a question. And it should be a question that only your cortex can answer. In other words, it's not a fearful question. It's saying, what just happened? Was it a word that triggered me? Was it the look I got? Was it somebody turning their back on me? And then ask yourself, where have I experienced that before? That will all bring your cortex back online and give you a chance to ask smart questions. It'll be able to say, what did you mean by that statement? I don't want to take it the wrong way. Could you explain what you meant? Or you looked at me like you were concerned. Can you tell me what was behind that look? Whatever it was, it helps you to say, were my perceptions accurate or not? And where do we go from here so we can recover this relationship? So the important thing here, it's step 3. When you're triggered, focus on a quick recovery. You're human, you will be triggered. But the game is really, how can I recover quickly? Right? You don't want to walk around being triggered for hours, for days, maybe for weeks. That's a miserable way to be around the people that you need to be around. It's best to say, can I catch it quickly? Maybe it takes me even seconds. Maybe it takes me minutes, but I'm able to bring my cortex back online and focus again on taking care of those authentic connections that are so important for our own success and for the contribution we want to make in the world. So with that, I think our time is up. I want to thank you very much for joining me, hearing just some basic things about building, maintaining an authentic connection. Good luck. And maybe we'll get together again soon before too long. Thank you very much. Bye bye.